Hey, welcome back to another video for our milestone number 3. We are on section 4, which is Edit Person. So in the last video, I left you with this point here where we could show all the users and all of the details. This is what we're going to look like before we're done. We're going to add an Edit button and a Delete button. When we click the Edit button, it will bring us to a form where we can change anything and submit those changes. So let's start here, and we're going to add a new column that will have the buttons in it that we can click. So I'm back here in this little file called Display All Users, and we need to add a new column at the beginning of our table. So let's put some space in here. So for the column header, I'm just going to say buttons. And then down here in the rows, we're going to add another column as well. So before we do the ID, we're going to echo out here our buttons. So let's see, let's go with table D or TD and NTD. And then inside of there, we're going to echo out some code that will let us put in a button. Now, the actual button that we want is supposed to be a form. And so the form will have a submit button inside of it. Now that action on the form is going to be equal to our edit user, and then we're going to create another button that will do delete user. So let's copy and paste, and let's change that to delete. Now there's some more work to do, but let's first of all get this thing displayed on the screen so that way we can test it out for visual appearance. So you notice I'm putting in single quotes instead of double, because single quotes can go inside of double quotes, but double quotes cannot go inside of double quotes. Now we also need the input type called submit. Okay, so we're going to have a button that will do an edit, and then the other should look like a delete button. So let's see, I will copy and paste, change that to delete. All right, so let's check it out. Let's see if it looks good. So I'll save it, come back here and refresh, and you can see I've got an edit and a delete button now. Oh, it looks like the column headers are out of whack, so ID is moved over. And up here where it says buttons, I'm going to copy and paste another for buttons 2 times. Okay, so we got ourselves the edit and delete button for every one of them. Now if I click the edit button, you see it goes to the edit user action. Okay, so we've got a form here, and now we need to be able to include another control on here that evaluates to the ID number. So I'm going to insert another input, but this time the type is hidden. And then also, so we're going to assign the name. The name is going to be equal to ID, and then the value, we want it to be equal to the actual value of the ID here. So we're going to put in a quotation mark here, a period, and we're going to concatenate in the value of the person's ID here. So let's see. That is going to be person's X ID. Okay, so that looks like it will put in the value, and then we'll be able to have an input form. So let's save it and refresh the page, and let's see. Now if I'm going to look for Park and I click for his edit button, I'm hoping to get ID equals 6, and sure enough it shows up in the URL, and now we have to go and create the edit user form. So I've already got a form that's pretty decent. I'm going to call it the new user form, and I'm going to copy and paste that, and we'll call it the edit user form. And let's see, I'm going to use the word form in there. Looks good. And I'm going to change the name here. So edit user form is now the new name. So let's go into edit user form, and we're going to fill in all the data that's here. So we've got a lot of things already done for us. All we have to do then is fill in a couple more details. So we want to be able to get the value called ID equals the get value from our form input from the other guy. So then what I want is actually a user object. So how do I get a user object? Well, I have to get the business service out of here first. So BS equals a new user business service. And then from there we can say user equals the BS object followed by find the user by the ID. Okay, so that should produce a user. Now I'm just going to test it out to make sure that that's getting what I'm expecting. So I'm going to say print R and then the user object and see what that does. Now there's a little bit of formatting trick here. If you do something a little bit strange, if you echo a pre and then a close pre at the end, you'll get very pretty looking objects on the screen. So let's just put those in here. You'll see what I mean in a second here. So now I'm going to just exit the script so that everything after here does not show up. Let's just test this out. It just occurred to me I don't have the require once for the autoloader. And I don't know why I used include earlier. I'm going to change that to require once. Oh, you can see here in my code here, for some reason it has an extra couple of items. Let's save that and retry again. So refresh. So it says we've got something going wrong with our binding process SQL error. This is an error message that's coming from my database object. So I'm going into user data services and I'm finding line 172, which is find by ID. So it says there's something wrong in my SQL statement. So select, okay, everything from the user from customers. Why did I put customers in there? It's the users table. So I'm pretty sure that'll fix it. And I'm going to select everything here, so I'm going to put a star, and that should change things a little bit. So let's save it, refresh the page, and there we go. So you can see that I am now producing an array, and the first element in the array is another array, and it has all of the data about this person. Very good. All right, so now as you look here, you can see that I'm expecting to get an object, and really what I have is an array. So my database function is not returning what I hoped for. It says this is array number 0, and then it has another array behind it. So I'm going to go and modify the database a bit to return a better object. So I'm going into user data service and come down to where it returns an array. So it says here I'm building an array and then I'm returning a person array. Well, I know that I'm only going to get one back, and I'd like to have it as an object. It says returns a single person array. I'm going to change that. I'm going to change it to a person object, and I think that'll work better in my form. So you'll see in a minute why. Now, I'm going to, instead of returning this right away, I'm going to create a new object. Let's call it P equals a new person. So then that new person object needs to have a whole bunch of parameters. So let's get those ideas from the results here. So we've got this thing here. It's an array of persons. So I'm going to say take the first element in the array and also give me his ID. And I'm going to pass this along and create an object. So I'm converting an array into an object. So I'm going to copy that. We've got like 5 of them in there. So the next one is first name. Okay, so then I have this P object, and I'm going to then return P $sign. Okay, so now I've got ourselves a different kind of an object. Let's come back here and push the refresh button. Okay, I've got an uncaught error. It says too few arguments. It says you passed in 5 and it expected 6. So that means I forgot one down here. So what did I forget? ID, first name, last name. Yes, it's called username. So let's copy that and insert one more, and instead of roll twice, it's going to be username. Okay, well, let's refresh that. And so now you can see that I have a person object instead of the other. So what is wrong here? It's not printing anything. So I'm getting a person object, but you can see there's no properties. They're all set to empty. Aha, I see the problem. So it was the person array that I'm supposed to be using here instead of the person object. So let's put in person array along each of those. And I'm sorry this is kind of messy, but when you're done here, you should see an actual person up here. Let's refresh, and there's the data. Okay, so now we've got ourselves some data to work with. So we've returned a person object instead of a person array. Let's go back into the edit user form now. So instead of choosing just the printing out the object here at the top, we're going to create some placeholders in the form. So instead of placeholder, we're going to say value equals, and then we're going to put in the first name. So let's put in here a start PHP, end PHP, echo, and we're going to have the user object do the get get the ID. There we go. So we can probably take this whole value chain here, copy it, and we're going to replace each of these. So instead of doing a placeholder, we're going to do a value. We're going to skip over the select statement for a second. Okay, and so let's see. This is not actually for the ID. This is supposed to be the guy's first name, isn't it? So let's do get first name. What's the next one supposed to be? Get last name. Let's go with that. And then who do we have? Get username. And then the last one down here is going to be get password. All right, so in an edit form, we need to include another control. So I'm going to copy and paste here. The control we're missing is the ID. So let's see. Let's change that as name as ID. And the text type is going to be changed to hidden. And let's see, it doesn't need a label, so let's delete that line. And so now this is going to be get ID. Okay, let's save this and let's refresh the page now. So you can see update an account shows everybody and it's got every detail filled in. Now the role is set wrong. We'll have to fix that in a second. So you can see that his role is set to level 2 and it came out to be a number 1. So let's go and fix that. So let's do a manual one first. Let's take a look at option number 3. If you were to type in this right here, this command, selected equals selected, that would make number 3 the selected choice here. So let's save that and let's switch back to here and refresh. So you can see that it's selected number 3. So if I put this line in here, it's going to select something. So all we have to do is change this into a PHP statement instead of HTML. So I'm going to put in a PHP code and we're going to check to see if this item is supposed to be selected. So we're going to say if user and get role, if that equals 3, then we're going to put in brackets and then we're going to echo the word selected equals selected. And I'm missing the parentheses on this side. And that one doesn't belong. Okay, so that means it's going to check to see if it should be a 3. So we can copy this and put it into every row here. So let's put in a if statement for every item in our select statement. So this is supposed to be a 1, this is a 2, 3, and 4. And that looks like it'll work. So let's refresh it again. And sure enough, it's selected number 2. Let's go try another user. And let's see, this guy is a role number 4. Let's change that one. And it's showing up as 4. Good. So 4 matches 4, and it looks like we've got ourselves the updated account. Okay, so it looks like it's filling in the form okay. Now I don't want to click the OK button because of this. It says my form is sent to process new user. So let's change this to process update user. Also, let's knock out this print statement on line 14 and 15 and 16 and save that again. Let's refresh the page. Okay, so if I updated this and click OK, it's supposed to take me to this called process update user, and it's not found on the server yet, so let's do that on the next video.